what it means that Prabhupada is our founder in a deep way. We're going to deepen our understanding of that. And so I'm going to choose one slide per lesson. So you see intros, needs and norms, that's the introductory lesson. Lesson 2, we do a quick review of what a guru is, why we need a guru. Then we focus on what a founder-acarya is. And then we look at how Prabhupada exemplified founder-acarya, par excellence, unprecedented, historically unprecedented, as Ayodhyapati Prabhu put it, Bhakti Bringa Govinda Maharaj, on Yadabar's final memory of the whole series. What Prabhupada did, this is what Kanchana Krishnadas Babaji said to Ayodhyapati Prabhu at the time. Did you know that your spiritual master is the greatest spiritual master who ever lived? Did you know that? And here's a Diksha guru, a Diksha disciple of Araya Vishnu saying this to him. He did. Do you know why he is the greatest? Because he did what no one ever did. No previous Acharya. Of course, it was by their mercy, but he did it. And what no avatar ever did. He spread Harinam all over the world. That's why he's the greatest. Brilliant way to end the series. Absolutely brilliant. So, and then we go, based on the deepened understanding of the relationship, then we go into abhidheya, which means, well, what do we do about it? Then we want to deepen our service to his mission. So lessons 5 and 6 are kind of like a mini Lilamrita. We go from the seed of the mission to first buds, what I call them, and you'll see what that means. Then we go into the ISKCON branch. Then we go into the great unfulfilled aspect of his mission. Come on in. We understand. That's all right. Come on in. The great Varnashram, clearing the confusion. And we identify the confusion, and then we try to clear it up about what it is. And then we see each section culminates. So in Sambandha, we culminate with Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. And then in abhidheya, we culminate with finding our mission in the mission. If we're even aware it's a mission. Sometimes, as Bir Krishna Maharaj said to me recently in an email, I'm scared. When I travel around the world, I see people's conviction in Krishna consciousness as large as sentimental. It's not really philosophically grounded. We've strayed. We haven't educated ourselves and people enough. And so easy come, easy go. All right, so and then we go to prayojana, and it's all about deepening our love. Once we deepen our service, then we're qualified to deepen our love, and then we go to love is to cooperate, and then just before the last lesson I get into trying to exorcise those demons of misconceptions. That we have impersonal misconceptions about Prabhupada, and we may have sentimental misconceptions. And then we finally go into identifying and trying to find our Prabhupada. We all have a unique individual relationship with Srila Prabhupada, as long as there's, as long as his society is functioning, his ISKCON, his energy is about the earth, then everybody has a chance, an opportunity to have a unique relationship with this unprecedented Acharya we call Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's just go quickly, as this is an unabashed infomercial for the full seminar. We'll go through it. Okay. Okay. The first thing when I talk about intro, needs, and norms, the most interesting part for me is, why do we need this? Because arguably we already have Prabhupada front and center in the movement. Excuse me. Thank you. Every day we have Guru Puja for Prabhupada. We open up his Bhagavatam. We're following his Panchanga Bhakti program, morning program. We do his mission all day. There's Harinam, there's Prasad distribution, there's book distribution. It's politically correct. It's popular now to talk about education more and more, and even Varnashram, the V word. We're still sort of wondering what it is. So what? I guess I'll just ask you folks. You have the mic? Do you know how he did it two-step?
Yeah, I know how to do it.
Okay, good. Just leave it on, I guess, or make it easy for everybody else. Why do you think we need such a seminar, Maharaj?
That's a good question. Well, because each and every devotee in the Krishna conscious movement has an eternal relationship with Prabhupada as his preeminent, predominant Siksha Guru. And it's not just accepting instruction, but it's a personal, deep relationship. And that deep relationship will keep people on the straight and narrow path of devotional service. Because, just like I do, I was telling devotees about this in the interview I just had 2 days ago, that every time before I make a decision in my own personal life, I ask myself, what would Prabhupada say? So there's this relationship, it's a two-way relationship, so devotees need to have that sort of two-way relationship instead of just a one-way relationship.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? I have things written down, but Prabhu, what is your name?
Ravi Gopal Das.
Ravi?
Gopal Das.
Ravi Gopal Das, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, the first generation disciples have got close relationship with
You got to speak slower, and I'm not going to ask you to speak American. Speak American, no. But just slower, so we can catch the beautifully inflected Indian English.
The first generation disciples has got a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada. They can easily understand the mood and mission of the Srila Prabhupada more comfortably than the other generation, especially those who are not directly related to Srila Prabhupada. It is better for them to understand, to attend these sort of seminars, to clearly understand what is his mood, mission, and what are the objectives, what we have to achieve in the ISKCON. These things will be known to us by attending the seminars.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. You actually hit on the germ, that's a terrible word, the seed of what prompted me, what sparked me to do this. I was teaching in the Mayapur Institute, and to illustrate the points that would come up in our classes, I would tell a Prabhupada story. And the students would look at me like, oh, you're so lucky. You saw Srila Prabhupada. We never saw Srila Prabhupada. We're so unlucky. Prabhus, that's not allowed. You're supposed to sit here. Distance creates horrible misunderstandings. Okay, so, all right, thank you for coming. So no matter how much I talked about Vani and Vapu and how we have so many, recordings by the grace of people like Yadavar Prabhu and Siddhanta Prabhu and so many people who have given us even Prabhupada's Vapu, his physically manifested present, his separated energy, as Prabhupada himself said on recordings. Still, they felt that there was a disconnect, just because they weren't Diksha initiated by Srila Prabhupada. So I said, this is wrong. This has got to stop. So I determined to do this. And then I found out there was a committee dedicated to this that had been doing something, but not much, for 5 years. And so when I got a hold of the committee, I said, what are you doing? Let me see your mission statement. And lo and behold, it was just what I wanted to do. So now I have official cover for doing what I'm doing. And that's good, and depending on where you are in ISKCON, sometimes it's not appreciated. But yes, Vasudev Prabhu.
Is it a matter of Diksha initiation, or I hear Prabhupada's disciples lament that they never got association with him. I hear those lament that they got little.
Yes.
I hear those lament that
Yes.
they didn't get enough.
Yes.
And then
yes.
I hear Shruti Prabhu lament that he didn't get enough, that he blew it because he left Prabhupada. So it seems, I don't think it's a matter of initiation.
No, yes. There were assumptions in what Prabhu was saying that we hope to clear away in this seminar. It's not about Vapu. It really isn't. Vapu is inspiration only to serve the complete vibration, eternal person, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, there's no end to it. Jayadurta Swami, who joined in 26 2nd Avenue in New York City, to this day laments he wasn't there in 66 to sit around Prabhupada's room across the courtyard from the temple room and just talk about anything and everything all day. Kaishori Mata, you going to stay? You going to stay? It's not just a guy's thing. It looks like a guy's
Really
thing.
looks that way. Actually, I'm going to be coming and pulling out.
All right, bring a lady. For your sake. Yes.
But then this is reminiscent of Uddhava trying to convince the gopis that they can just meditate on Krishna. And the gopis just dismissing and being offended that just get out of here, we don't want to hear this.
Before we explore the ramifications of these highfalutin analogies, we're going to proceed before we run out of time. But hold that thought. All right, let's go. Let me just read some never mind. There's so many reasons, but I'll just read one. We need to see and know all acharyas, past and present, through the peerless lens of our founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada, right in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, encourages the serious student of the Bhagavad to look at commentaries of previous acharyas. But did that mean without reading his books? It means we see everything through the lens, if you want to take the visual analogy, or through the ears, we see everything through Srila Prabhupada. That's called being chaste to the founder Acharya. Let's keep going here. Okay, we do a brief review of Guru Tattva. This is a fun part. So when people hear the word Guru in modern society, say there's a lot of, okay, anyway. What do they often think if they see the word Guru in print, in the press? How is it passed into our language?
Usually means somebody with a big beard.
No, that's too high. I just want to...
You mean someone who's an authority in a particular field?
Yeah, an expert. I got my financial guru, I got my political guru, I got my sports guru, right? That's how it's passed into the language. How about, okay, so popularly, it's an expert. How about naturally? Name a guru in nature. Yadabaru. Okay, what a guru?
In nature?
Yeah. Who teaches you something in nature? Can you think of somebody?
The tree.
Yeah, there you go. What does he teach you?
Tolerance.
Tolerance. Exactly. More tolerant than a tree. Tororiva sahishnuna, or Tora piyasishta hishnuna. Think of that Avadut Brahmin in the 11th canto. Said he had 24 gurus, the bees and the trees. Okay, so yeah, Krishna's energy teaches us a lot. So there it is. So naturally, a teacher in nature. Example, a tree teaches tolerance. You're right on cue there. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. What else? I forget the next category now. Naturally, popularly. Oh yeah, literally. What does the word guru mean? Gopaswami Prabhu.
Heavy.
Heavy, especially heavy with knowledge. Doesn't just mean it has a big belly. No. Heavy with knowledge. And then finally, in full bloom. What's the full? Think of Prabhupada preaching about what a guru is. Think of Mundaka Upanishad. What would Prabhupada quote? What's a guru? Can you think of some shlokas or? Tursma Gurun Prapadita Shrabde Puri Chanishna Tam. Here's a little excerpt from LA lecture. A person who has properly received Vedic knowledge and is, quote, fixed up in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, what is a guru? Okay. And then from the brief review of Guru Tattva that talks about what is a guru, why do we need a guru, how a guru is one, how a guru is different guru-disciple scenarios like that. And, by the way, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take questions at the end just for the sake of getting through the preview, the sample, although the full seminar is much more interactive. Okay, and then we look at the person who makes the whole thing work, the founder Acharya, the Prabhupada or the Vishnupad, the guru at whose feet all other gurus sit. Prabhus, we don't allow distance here. Come, please. You must come forward. Unless you're translating, then that's actually favorable, it's useful. Please come forward. We don't want you, come on. Hey. You're oh good. And you're checking him or what? Okay. All right. Okay, the founder Acharya. That's the next lesson. Who is that supposed to be in the picture? Gopaswami. Prabhu. Any ideas?
Guru Nanak.
That's a good guess. It's a Google image of? That's it. Minus the Himalayas. He's upgraded or downgraded as depending on your worldview.
Who is that?
That's supposed to be Srila Vyasadeva, but minus Ganesh in the Himalayas. So we'll forgive Google Images. Okay, what are the characteristics of a founder-acharya? I consulted a Vedic scripture and a Gaudiya scripture. All right, in the Vedic scripture, this is our sister Sampradaya, the Shris. Prabhus, please come forward. We need your energy. Thank you. According to the Sri Papanamrita Tapana, the first symptom of a founder-acharya is... Maharaj, Yadavar Prabhu, why don't you read that?
Udarika, savior of everyone, assisted by upakarika, masters who succeed him to execute his mission.
Yes. Now Lakshmi Devi, Shri, in her infinite wisdom and compassion, she empowered someone in her sampradaya in the Kali Yuga to represent her most powerfully. So who was that person? Anybody you know? Yadavar? Sri Ramanuja Acharya. So he is the founder-acharya in the Kali Yuga of the Sri. He's the most prominent branch of the Sri Sampradaya. If you go to Sri Rangam or Hyderabad, you will see Ramanuja very powerfully represented. And so this is very important. Okay, the founder-acharya in any given line, he's so powerful. He's Jagat Guru. He's not. It's as glorious enough as it is to be a regular guru. He's the guru of gurus, and so he's called Udarika, which means the savior of everyone. And everybody who comes after him in the line. This is the big mistake we made in the big bad dark ages, zonal Acharya era. Out of immaturity, or maybe it was a little ambition mixed in there. We had this misconception that those who succeed Prabhupada in time, there was this obscurance. Somehow we're replacing him now in importance. And that's never the case, according to Shastra and tradition, that those who come after the founder-acharya never do that. Shiva Ramaswamy gives a brilliant analogy in his book, The Shiksha Guru, which came out in 1999. He said the founder-acharya of a line, he's the foundation. So you never neglect the foundation. You're always caring for and reinforcing and taking care of that foundation, because that's the part of the building that's supporting everything else. And as soon as you neglect that foundation, the whole thing collapses. And we've seen that. What happens to yatras where the people weren't educated about Prabhupada's singular, preeminent position. People thought they had no position in any sphere. Okay, next maybe you can pass the mic to Gopaswami. Can you read that, Gopaswami, next?
Nina Bhaya removes the fear of all fallen souls.
Yes, removes the fear of all. So just keep reading them. Go ahead.
Writes Mahagrantha, great books purporting Vaishnava songs or Shastras.
Not only Shastras, but songs, which give us a glimpse of the spiritual world, where every step is a dance and all speech is song. Another one.
His name becomes identified with the sacred Word of God.
Yes. Once in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was distributing Back to Godheads, 1972. And I handed this BTG to a local on the street. This is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For those who don't know Pittsburgh, this is the Kali Yuga city. It's called the Iron City. Even the beer is called Iron City Beer. So I handed Back to Godhead to this guy. And he opened the cover, and in those days, on the inside cover of BTG, there was a picture of Prabhupada. That was the standard then. And so he opened the page, and he said, Is that Hare Krishna? And I had to make a split-second decision here. Was I going to launch into a theological explanation of Sakshat Hari Tvena Samasta Shastra, or was I going to give him something he could understand? So I said, yeah, that's Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. And I hoped if he read a little more in the magazine, he'd discover Prabhupada's position. Okay. So let's go. Now we go from the Vedic Shastra, or sister Sampradaya Shastra, to a Vedic Gaudiya Shastra, Harinama Chintamani. Let's see. Gopaswami, you want to keep reading there?
So according to Harinam Chintamani, possesses great spiritual strength.
And
His teachings supersede all others and are compulsory for his followers.
And
He holds a unique post.
And
He is the Acharya, or leader, of all Vaishnavas when physically present.
in Prabhupada's last days, you might remember from his Lilamrita, his Leela, that out of Prabhupada's humility, he called for his godbrothers to come to his bedside to apologize to them. Because both in the written word and the spoken word, he said some heavy, heavy things about his spiritual master's mission, what happened to it, and about his own godbrothers. So Prabhupada was describing himself as Mahapatita, greatly fallen. And so I think it was Puri Maharaj who said, "No, you're Mahapatita Pavana. You saved so many people, and you are our leader. You rule us. No offense." It was a very sweet exchange. And then the final?
He awards power of authority to his followers through adherence to his teachings.
Yes. Who was it asked the question of Avinda Swarup Prabhu yesterday? I forget the question even, but the answer was Prabhupada failed if what? What was the question? You remember the question? Remember that? I'm trying to remember the question.
You're talking about Bhagavatam.
Yeah, Bhagavatam class. Anyway,
Not just that he said he was going to go to New York because then he would fail in a different place.
anyway, but the idea is that Srila Prabhupada, an authentic founder-acharya is, what was the question?
Should we write books?
Oh, yeah.
Prabhupada's highest level of organization and writings. Should we write books?
Yeah, and that was part of it.
Rabindra said if we don't, then Prabhupada has failed.
Yeah.
He instructed us to.
That's yes, and in fact, because Ravindra Swarup Prabhu said, because the verse following the verse that Ravindra lectured on, 1343 or 1346, and it was the last verse in the 3rd chapter, 1st canto, was 141, where Prabhupada talks about how to represent an acharya. And you represent him by representing. You represent the same message. You don't change 1 ounce of the spirit. But you have to constantly be sensitive to the ever-changing material scene so you can inject that message in an interesting way. For example, Srila Prabhupada, he would say things, if I'm successful, it's because I didn't change anything. That means he didn't change any principles. Boy, did he change details, like anything. So we have to become intelligent enough to know the difference between keeping a principle intact and adjusting a detail to spread Krishna consciousness. Okay, questions are going to be at the end, and then we go to lesson 4. How did Srila Prabhupada manifest the symptoms of a founder-acharya? I want to pick a native English speaker. I'm biased. Mr. Ingaloka, you're not native, but you're pretty good. Where are you? Oh, come on, come forward here. Sit right there, please. I know you're trying to do your duty, but that's okay. Just sit right there. Okay, so read, please.
Circling the globe 14 times in
12 years.
12 years, Prabhupada inspired people to help him establish Krishna consciousness on every major continent.
Now this is just unprecedented, that somebody could cut through ethnicity, racial background, karmic background, politics, nationality, and connect with people on a spirit level, sometimes instantly practically. The shortest igniting of a whole country to Krishna consciousness by Srila Prabhupada that I know, to my knowledge, happened in Fiji, where Prabhupada was on a connection. He was in there for 45 minutes. And a wealthy Indian, Fijian Indian businessman noticed this elderly sadhu and came up to him and said, "What are you What are you doing, Swami? And so Prabhupada told him about his whole mission. And by the time by the time it was ready for him to board, he told the man, and you should open up a temple. And he did. He did. He ignited the spark, you know. And that's faster than Russia. Russia was 3 or 4 days with Anatoly, you know, who became Anantashanti. And, yeah. So Prabhupada, his potency, by the grace of Krishna and the Parampara and his Guru Maharaj, absolute surrender, absolute potency coming through. Okay, next one, Sringaloka.
He founded over 100 Krishna consciousness temple, schools, farms, and restaurants.
And?
Wrote and published scores of books revealing the truth of foundation Vaishnava Shastras.
What else?
Initiated thousands of disciples and inspired hundreds of thousands more to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness.
And?
Though very elderly, he exhibited extraordinary spiritual strength, preaching Krishna consciousness day and night to whoever would listen.
It wasn't until Srila Prabhupada had his stroke that the first devotees even remembered or could recognize that Prabhupada was living in an older body. It was the wonder that was Swamiji, right? Preaching day and night, playing the drum, cooking, serving prasadam. Amazing. Okay.
Founded the ISKCON branch of Chaitanya Tree. Destined to carry pure love of God to every town and village on earth.
That the Chaitanya tree is. Whether ISKCON's going to do it is up to us and the future generations. Like Gaudiya Math had the same destiny. When we were helping Satsuru Maharaj compile Prabhupada's biography, Maharaj would assign us different people to interview. He gave himself the task of interviewing Sridhar Maharaj in Navadvip. So one of the questions Satsuru Maharaj asked Sridhar Maharaj was it only our Prabhupada that had this order to go preach in the West? And Sridhar Maharaj immediately said, oh no, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was always saying this to all of us. This is what he wanted. Because his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had envisioned a worldwide movement, and he prayed for a ray of Vishnu to help him do it. And he took it all over India, and even out of India to England and Germany. So he was serious. He wanted to go all over the world. But as Sridhar Maharaj said, but Swami Maharaj, referring to our Prabhupada, he did it. He actually did it. So, no one ever did it. No previous Acharya, no avatar like that. Okay, so that's how we end up the sambandha. That's the preview of what we do in sambandha. Each lesson goes for an hour. So if you do take the full seminar, tomorrow we'll be doing introductions and guru review. That's what we'll be doing in the morning. And we're going to, right now we have 32 people signed up, and I know more people are going to walk in, so we're going to divide this into 2 groups. I'm going to do a morning session and repeat it in the afternoon. Most people don't know that, but I've decided today we have to do that. Come on in, Prabhupada Prabhu. And so the morning will start at 10:30, and the afternoon will start at 3:30. And it's in classroom 1 in Chaitanya Bhavan, and I'll tell you more about that if you want to know. So let's go into abhidheya. Abhidheya starts with lesson 5. And this is where we do, lessons 5 and 6 are a mini Lilamrita. I call it from seed to buds. So what's the seed of Prabhupada's mission before I click the next slide? What would you call the seed of Prabhupada Prabhu? Pass him the mic, please. And give him a paper, too, please. Okay.
I would say the seed is the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
You hit the jackpot. There it is. Let's see if you can read this slide. Can you read that?
While the 2 young men were still rising and preparing to sit, before any preliminary formalities of conversation had begun, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta immediately said to them, "You are educated young men. why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message throughout the whole world?
Before Abhay and Narendranath Mulak had even finished getting up to gain a comprehensible impression of Srila Saraswati Thakur, the Thakur is giving the order. He's planting the seed. He was so eager to do this. And then read the next one, please.
I was from a Vaishnava family, so I could appreciate what he was preaching. Of course, he was speaking to everyone, but he found something in me. I was so much struck with wonder. I could understand, here is the proper person who can give a real religious idea.
So Narendranath Mulak, Naren said, so Abhay, what do you think? Because you know the story, but Prabhupada didn't want to go. He said, my friend had to drag me. Oh, he's wonderful. Now I can see that Lord Chaitanya's message is in comparable hands, competent hands, wonderful hands. So that's the seed, and then the seed of the mission, and then the mission, his mission germinated, so to speak. There's a hint. We're going to continue with the horticultural metaphors, since Lord Chaitanya himself describes himself as the tree and the gardener of the fruit of love of God. So what would you say would be the event in Prabhupada's life where his mission sprouted? If that's the seed planted, then think of Prabhupada's life story and where did it sprout? Yes?
Thanks for giving me another chance to guess. I would say when Srila Prabhupada had the dream about taking sannyas.
Oh, a little before then. I'll have to cut you off. Oh, who else would like to take a transcendental guess? Just raise your hand. You want to pass the mic? Oh. No, that's too late. Just think pre-USA. Prabhu.
When you started League of Devotees in Jhansi.
Now you're gonna, okay, Maharaj.
When Prabhupada started translating the Bhagavatam.
No, before, if the seed is whoop, I just gave it away. It sprouts at initiation, right? According to Rupa Goswami. That's when the connection is officially, in front of the sacred fire and the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master. It germinates or it sprouts when you make the connection real, solid like that. As Prabhupada himself said, so I accepted him immediately. Not officially, but in my heart. But when you do that ceremony, we're not unceremonious also. That rite of passage is necessary, where you're declaring, you're making this solemn commitment to Guru and Krishna and the Vaishnavas and the sacred fire, Krishna as the sacred fire, that you're going to give your life to the spiritual master. I think a life was just snuffed out there. Was he an aggressor? Okay, we'll forgive you. Good.
Multi-aggressive.
All right. I forgot to tell you to bring the Nimit next time. Where's the mic? I forgot to. Okay. Okay, and then just two more in this analogy. Sorry if it sounds like 20 questions, but when was the creeper? And it's still, I'll give you a hint, it's still in the 1930s. When was the creeper really blessed? The year is 1935. 2 times in 35 there were major events of blessing of the creeper by Saraswati Thakur. If you know your Lilamrita. You know Nishringaloka, you're going to show us Diksha disciples up. Good, that's what this seminar is all about.
Case within the Radhakura?
That's in Kartik. What happened right around this time of year? February. At the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Vyasa Puja. There it is.
Vyasa Puja, big poem. We wrote a big poem.
He gave a big address to the members of the Gaudiya Math, Bombay, and what was the stanza that Saraswati Thakur would single out as Abhay Charana Aravinda now, capturing his mission? You know this? Okay, before you say it, Maharaj, we're going to mic you. Mic. Oop.
Absolute ascension thou hast proved, and personal calamity thou hast removed.
Moved, and then Prabhupada edited it years later to removed. When it was found again at the Royal Asiatic Society in London by Guru Das, Prabhupada, oh, I thought this was lost, Prabhupada said. And he changed moved to removed. He changed his books. What's he doing? He's ruining his books. No, forgive me. Okay. And then finally, how was the mission confirmed? In the same, roughly the same time, his mission was, the same seed that was planted was confirmed at the end of his Guru Maharaj's life.
Shall I answer?
Yeah.
In a letter that was sent about a month before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left the planet.
2 weeks.
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 weeks, yeah.
Go ahead. So what happened? What was the letter?
Why did you do that? I don't know.
Okay, so around December 8th, 9th, 36, Abhaya Charanavinda Das wrote his Guru Maharaj, and he felt like he just wanted it, because the whole time his missionary spirit was building. Oh, but let me, in Kartika 35, there was the famous Radhakunda remarks, where Saraswati Thakur is getting discouraged, and he's openly revealing this to his intimate now disciple. He considers Abhaya an intimate disciple because of this poem, and he gave the editor of The Harmonist, who was Nishikant Sanyal, Narayan, Bhakti Sudhakar Narayan Das, who wrote Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the big book that they took to England and Germany. He said, whatever he writes, print it. This is carte blanche. This is no small thing. Whatever he writes, print it. And he would proudly show the poem he wrote, especially that stanza, to his guests. So that was quite an endorsement. So Prabhupada wrote his Guru Maharaj, I am householder, I'm involved in family and business, I don't know what I can do for you, I just want to serve you, so what should I do? So, as Prabhupada beautifully tells on the recordings you've heard, so, my Guru Maharaj wrote, my dear such and such. He wrote back on dated December 14th, 1936. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said the same thing. He said when he first met him, I think you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. I have full confidence that you can do this. So, that is from seed to buds, and then we go in the lesson about starting back to Godhead. Yes?
Do you have the exact text of the letter?
Yeah, that's in the full seminar. You got to come to the full seminar, my friend. Mon ami. Okay, this is an infomercial. It's supposed to pique your interest. Okay, in lesson 7, what we do is, after doing that little mini Lilamrita, we go into clearing the, I call it Varnashram, clearing the confusion about the V word. You know, what we haven't really done. We've barely scratched the surface. Prabhupada went so far as to say, although he never wrote it, and this is one of those famous quotes, that we don't have the written word on it, or Prabhupada saying it in a lecture, but we have reliable ear witnesses, especially Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Abhiram Prabhu, who were with Prabhupada a lot in that last year. And, whoops. Okay. No, I skipped. I went ahead of myself. Or did I? Now I'm getting confused. Okay. Yeah, before that, I'm so eager to tell that lesson 6 is the branch now, continuing that, that horticultural metaphor. A full-fledged branch sprouts or manifests when Prabhupada lands in America. And for this lesson, to me, this is worth the whole lesson. I show an 11-minute video of a UK Indian Pandavasane devotee who made this amazing video in 2008 to glorify Srila Prabhupada. Here's somebody who never met Prabhupada, in Vapu. What you have is, for 11 minutes, you have Jai Sachinandan Prabhu from our generation, our godbrother, singing the poem, Markine Bhagavat Dharma, preaching Krishna consciousness in America. You have, for 11 plus minutes, he's singing that in Bengali, and then you have on the screen, you have a highlights of Prabhupada's preaching Leela from landing in America, I think this is one of the first slides, to the end where you see Yadavar Prabhu's film of Prabhupada lying on the bed dictating Srimad Bhagavatam. It is so powerful. It is so moving, and it is such a good example of it's nothing about vapu. It's about understanding life, teachings, mood, mission, accepting it, living it, and being intimate with Prabhupada that way, the eternal way. Okay, so that's the ISKCON branch. Who remembers any of the 7 purposes of ISKCON Incorporated, July 13, 1966, signed A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami along with the directors, Raymond Murray, who became Roy Rama, and somebody else, and the lawyer, Stephen Goldsmith. Who remembers any of these purposes? Remember? Maharaj?
Well, distribute books in every language to establish a place of pilgrimage.
Vrindavan.
And
They're mostly about education. You said the last one? With a view to achieving the aforementioned purposes, profuse distribution of literature, the family business. The first one is what? Do you know what the first one is? Yes.
Systematically propagate
Educate.
the teachings of Shri Krishna and Bhagavad Gita.
To systematically educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life. And it goes on and on from there. If you look at those 7 purposes, 4 of them are explicitly educational and the other 3 are implicitly. It's all about education. That's what this movement is about. Tamasi ma, jyotir gama, like that.
I have a question.
Yes, well, questions are coming at the end.
Very just short question. I heard that before Prabhupada came.
Should I allow this? Wait, no, that's too long. Leave it to the end. Hold that question. Please. Everybody's so tolerant. If I make an exception, they're all going to rush the stage and say, whoop, there goes another one. All right, but hold that thought, please. I don't mean to be mean, but please, hold it. All right, then lesson 7, clearing the confusion. The reason Varnashram is so confusing, in 1991, somehow or other, the GBC asked me to research all of Prabhupada's instructions about Varnashram, codify them, come out with some literature. I passed the assignment on very shrewdly to my colleague Hare Krishna Mataji, whom you may remember from her brilliant Back to Godhead pieces about plain living and high thinking. She did the research. 5 years later I came back from India where I tried, we got some Nimit to the rescue here. I tried to live in South India. It didn't work, but I learned a lot. I came back to the States. I became her editor for the book that they're selling at the Varnashram tent, Speaking About Varnashram. It traces the evolution of Prabhupada's preaching on Varnashram from 1968 to 1977. The reason there's so much confusion about Varnashram is because Prabhupada used the term in 4 different ways, number 1, and then he applied the term in over 3 phases of ISKCON's history. So it's small wonder that, we bring our own agendas to hearing anyway, and then when we latch on to one way Prabhupada used the term, and then we latch on to one time frame that he applied the term, and we come out with a very heavily skewed or narrow understanding of what Varnashram is. And it's small wonder that we've been butting heads over it, for decades. Anyway, so we clear up, at least conceptually, what it's all about, this phase of his mission. And then over there, they're trying to do something about it, right? Okay. Okay, and then we go to lesson 8. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at that slide. Basically, Prabhupada's preaching about Varnashram revolves around Brahminical culture, which is represented at the bottom there by a nice aerial shot of Les Ardennes, where Bhaktivedanta College is, beautiful section of Belgium. And if you go there, my gosh, you see all these graves, from World War I and II. It's just strewn, because that castle was a hospital during those world wars. It's a battleground. It's just a big battleground. And now out of the ashes of 20th century wars has arisen this Bhaktivedanta College. And then cow protection. As Prabhupada writes in the first canto, people do not know what they are doing in the name of economic development. They do not know what, and people don't know that the secret a happy human society is making the cows and bulls happy. We are so disconnected from reality that we can't make heads or tails of that statement. But we do make heads or tails of it in that lesson. Okay, so, but lesson 8 really is all about finding, taking another look at who we are and why it's so hard in Kali Yuga to know who we are, because we're such a mixed bag. We're Varna Sankara, which literally means mixed caste. We're mixed up. I mean, there's a whole industry, it's called occupational therapy out there. Now, people don't have a clue because of the conflicted nature of the human being in Kali Yuga. And then how we need mentors to help us identify what our main contribution is to the world, to Krishna, to everybody. So finding our mission within the mission is very important. Otherwise, we're forever floating around the Hare Krishna movement. No, we gotta. And the reason we're floating is because we haven't done what Prabhupada said. With every temple, there's supposed to be a Varnashram college. Then there's supposed to be some rural. Prabhupada said, make a small unit of ideal community. Everybody has a role to play in this Varnashram revolution. The city temples, the congregation, the Varnashram college, the rural model, the college preaching with its restaurants and reading rooms. It's a whole strategy that Prabhupada wanted us to show the world so that they'll read the books. Now that we can preach till we're blue in the face, unless we show something, people won't take the book seriously. So we really need to do this. And we all have a part to play in it. And this is a parody underneath Prabhupada's face. This is a parody of an old U.S. Army expression. You remember the advertisement? Anybody from America? Yeah. What did it say? What did the U.S. Army say to their potential recruits? Be all you can be.
I want to.
No, that's Uncle Sam. Yeah, good try though. You're from Russia. That's a pretty good try. Be all you can be. Go Army. Now this is in contradistinction to how the movement mainly was. From 66 to 73, Prabhupada's mood was, look, forget Varnashram, you don't need it, it's not practical, it's not possible, and we'll show the evolution if you come to the seminar of how that worked. It was kind of a Brahmins-only ISKCON. We're supposed to put a head back in society, and we don't need this. Chant Hare Krishna, men, women, and children out the door distributing books, putting us on not only Brahminical pedestals, practically Paramhamsa pedestals. We're beyond it all. And it kind of worked a little bit. In Prabhupada's effulgence, we were all kind of dancing in his teja. But as time went on, Prabhupada began to introduce, he took that as far as he could. And in his infinite wisdom, right at the crest of the first big wave of book distribution, he dropped a bomb when he started talking about Varnashram College. If you hear the morning walks, it's like a shock. What? Like Sridhananda Maharaj saying, this is revolutionary, Srila Prabhupada. I didn't know what to make of it. Anyway, it's a whole strategy. We haven't done it, but it's all still there, just waiting to go. It'll go. It's thy will be done. So there's the quote. The last verse, heavily elided, heavily dotted, but there's the essence and the purport. Yadavar Prabhu, you want to pass on the mic? Want to read? Just read that excerpt.
It does not matter what one is, one must dedicate everything in the service of the Lord. That is the way to realize the Lord in every sphere of life. One should try to engage in the service of the Lord, everything for which one has specific attraction. And that is the way of peace and prosperity.
Yes. As soon as most of us hear the V word, we think, I'm not a farmer. Don't tell me that stuff. Prabhupada, they say it's backwards. Yes, you have to teach them. Backwards is forwards. So it's not just about being farmers, Varnashram. It's about showing the world a better way to live. A better educational system, a better economic system, there's a big one. Just everything. Better food, better philosophy, better music. It's a whole life. So if it's a counterpoint to the army parody, army saying, be all you can be, go army. Earlier, it was like the Marines used to say, are you good enough to get in? The few, the proud. You know, it was very exclusive, very elite, like that. So Prabhupada would take all comers, but, you know, we were all trying to be Brahmins, because that's what Prabhupada was trying to do. And he took that as far as he could, but it was like, are you good enough to stay in Prabhu? And we're just trying to control our senses, right? But by the end of his stay with us, Prabhupada was saying, you know, you can't even follow the rules and regulations, you can't chant 16 rounds. He was saying you, meaning, you know, you first disciple, first people, because even his trusted leaders sometimes were falling down and leaving. So we take a look at how we can be all we can be who we are, and make progress from there over the Daiva Varnashram bridge. Okay, let's go to prayojana. Time is running out. Lesson, if you look on your page, lesson 8 is to love is to cooperate. So that was arguably Prabhupada's last farewell to us, his farewell request. If your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate, right, to keep this institution together. But then in the very next, as a counterpoint, thesis, your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate to keep this institution together when I am gone, right? But then you find in a letter, for example, to Acharya Rishi, don't expect utopia. Krishna consciousness doesn't mean everybody's going to always agree. Don't expect everybody's always going to be smiling. Because we are tiny. And only Krishna can relate to everyone coming from him perfectly. Because that's Krishna. He's infinitely capable. And even in the spiritual world, as Prabhupada said to Acharya in this letter, he said lacking. There's even envy. But he said, but it's transcendental because Krishna is the center. And transcendental envy means with malice toward none. Oh, this person is serving Krishna so nicely. It doesn't mean I want to knock the person down. Let me do better. So Prabhupada called that transcendental envy. And that's good. That's healthy because it increases Krishna's pleasure, and that's the nature of superior sequence, is that everything is increasing. It's not like entropy, you know, the scientists talk about entropy, everything going from unity to dispersal, like that. So, to love is to cooperate, but don't expect utopia. What's the synthesis? Well, here it is. Find unity in diversity, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do here in Mayapur. That's what we're coming together. Where's the mic? Want to read that?
Materialists, without being able to adjust the varieties and disagreements, makes everything zero. They cannot come into agreement with varieties, but if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity.
And then?
I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all GBC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity.
And one way to do that, of course, the main thing is that Krishna has to be in the center. And when Krishna is really, pleasing Krishna is really, really, really deeply, wholly, solely, anyabilashita shunyam, the center, then we can, from a secure position, free from fear, we can appreciate how different people, within the parameters, of course, of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, are trying to please Krishna. We don't have to be threatened by diversity. Lord knows we have enough diversity in this movement. We need more unity. We need more Srila Prabhupada, life, teachings, mood, and mission. He's what makes it all go. So, to love is to cooperate is the 10th lesson, and then number 11. For those who came in late, this is a preview. This is a sample of the full seminar we're going to start tomorrow. It's just a commercial. It's an advertisement. It's supposed to whet your appetite. So, just before the last lesson, the penultimate, or the second to last lesson, what we do is we try to exorcise, dispel ghosts, what we call fictional Prabhupads, imaginary Prabhupads, illusory Prabhupads. What do we mean by that? Let's take a look at my notes so I can find out what I mean by that. What I'm going to read is just a brief statement. No, I said this. I stand on this. I'll stand behind this. Basically, fictional Prabhupads means there is two kinds. There's impersonal misconceptions about Srila Prabhupada, and there's sentimental misconceptions. So here's what I say. Studying our founder Acharya's teachings without studying his life and how he lived and applied those teachings can lead to impersonalism. It's just you're memorizing shlokas, you're a folio pundit, you have an agenda, you go into the folio, you pull something out of context to push what you want. That's impersonal. It's dishonest, right? And at the same time, becoming attached to our founder Acharya's personality without studying, not to mention following his teachings, can lead to what? Sentimentalism. So we need the whole Prabhupada. We need the life, the teachings, the mood, the mission, everything. And we need each other. Because Prabhupada is so transparent and pure and powerful that even those who were traveling with him, and even those who watch Yadabar's DVDs over and over again, we only get a little bit. We need the well-rounded Sangha of serious and sincere Vaishnavas to get a full picture of Prabhupada and what the spirit of his teachings are, and why, he says diametrically opposite things in different situations. We have to be able to identify fundamental principles to be able to represent him, in all kinds of diverse times, countries, candidates, time, place, circumstance. So fictional Prabhupads. What's an example? Let's see here. Some impersonal fictions. I personally witnessed this. Srila Prabhupada is Krishna. As you probably know, that actually happened. And I was there, witnessing. It was my inoculation into ISKCON politics. 2-week-old bhakta, right? I get out of the van, I join in Boston, 9-hour ride to New Vrindavan, first movement-wide festival, Janmashtami Vyas Puja. I get out of the van, I see a sannyasi taking a temple president by the collar, throwing him against a farm fence. Prabhu, Prabhupada is God. And because we haven't recognized this, he's left us. Wow. And that was, so for 3-4 days, the whole camp, there were hundreds of devotees there. Prabhupada's God, Prabhupada's not God. It was like an earthquake, like a chasm at my feet, this beautiful movement I joined. I thought it was imploding, self-destructing, right on the spot. And Prabhupada had just formed the GBC. So what the first act of the GBC was to send a telegram to Prabhupada. What do we do? Those people you've just given sannyas to, they're saying you're God. Expel them. Yeah. As Brahmananda says on the DVD. So Bhagavan took us to Detroit and he locked us in the attic. I know Bhagavan said that actually. Yeah. And then Bhagavan let him out. And Brahmananda says, so we had nothing. We had a quarter. He said in the New York English. We had a quarter. He had 25 cents in his pocket. And they're walking down the road, and it's getting late now, and they take rest under a big tree full of nice soft pine needles. And they woke up in the morning, and where were they? They're right outside the gates of the Ford Motor Company. Headquarters. In Dearborn, I guess. Or something, yeah. So there they were outside, and this is interesting because later Ambarish joined, But they were starving, and they had nothing. They didn't know what to do, where to go. They'd just been kicked out of the movement. They were totally devastated. And then out of the blue, a little boy comes with a big jug of milk and a big loaf of bread and says, my mommy told me to give this to you. It was like a Krishna book story, right? They were sincere, so they followed Prabhupada's directive that to come back into the Sangha of the devotees, you have to go out and preach. But you can't be with them now. And they did. And they rectified themselves. So we look at fictional Prabhupads, sentimental Prabhupads. Okay, no, that's just the first one. Prabhupada is God, Prabhupada is only ISKCON, Prabhupada is only the GBC, Prabhupada is only the guru of his Diksha disciples. Those are impersonal, incomplete understandings of Prabhupada. Those are myths. If you want to know why, you come to this full seminar. Yadavar has a wonderful footnote.
Just an addendum to that story. Those sannyasis went to University of Michigan and preached. And one of the first people they met who invited them back into his home was Indra Swami.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the result of that wandering preaching.
Joy. So Prabhupada's potency manifests in the most unlikely ways. Sentimental fictions. Prabhupada's whatever I want him to be. We call that illusory Prabhupada. I like his roses, I don't like his thunder so much. I'll just take the roses. No, you got to take it all. The thunder, the roses. Okay. Prabhupada is a figurehead. Like in America we have George Washington, you have Gandhi, or you have Subhash Bose or Nehru, you know. He just, and with the passage of time he recedes in importance. He doesn't rule our lives, he's just some symbol or some myth practically. He's merely, Prabhupada's just that Vapu personality who walked among us, that grand old man. No, that's only a little bit of Prabhupada. The full Prabhupada is Vani, as he beautifully expresses in his concluding words to Chaitanya Chaitamrita. And a sentimental misconception, he's perpetually our Diksha Guru. Look, when we understand deeply the relationship of our founder-acarya with all of us, there's no need to, upasidantically, if you forgive the adverb, make the leap that Prabhupada's the Diksha Guru of everybody for all time. See, I didn't even say the R word. Aren't you proud of me? Okay. All right. Here we go. The final lesson in this seminar, the final preview, is that we talk about how to connect with your Srila Prabhupada. And I'm talking about me, you, everybody, whatever generation. Look at Prabhupada, this collage, what this collage is expressing is how Prabhupada is a transcendental Renaissance man. He can do it all. He's a superb cook. He can give us a vision of plain living and high thinking. That was what he was bound and determined to do before he had to go back to Vrindavan to leave this world. He was on his way to Gita Nagari, where I lived for 13 years. He's the supreme musician. There he is on Hippie Hill, 67, San Francisco. He's our ever well-wisher. He's the mantra upasaka. There he is establishing Radha Gokulananda in 73 at Bhaktivedanta Manor. He's dictating books. All the previous acharyas are coming to him in the wee hour, the sacred wee hours of the morning, and Prabhupada's taking the commentaries of the previous acharyas, and he's meditating on his own practical realizations as he's spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, and out come his ecstasies, his Bhaktivedanta purports. And he gives us, he's the giver of prasadam. I was in Miami when Prabhupada was lecturing on Gita, chapter 13, text 1, 2, 3. Chitra gyam chapi mam vidhi. Krishna says, I am also the knower in all bodies. And Prabhupada went into ecstasy over one word, cha. Just see, with one word, cha, Prabhupada has kicked out, or Krishna has kicked out Mayapur, cha. And I am the knower in all bodies. There's two knowers. There's a soul, the super soul. Anyway, Prabhupada's lecturing, and then during the question and answer, Prabhupada said, practically speaking, you have all come because of prasad. Prasad. And then we just lit up like kids. Yeah. And Abhiram was the temple president at the time. He was fanning Prabhupada. And, Abhiram is a cool customer. He doesn't easily show his cards, He went right out of character.